May 1988 sees the introduction of a new generation of high-speed electric trains for the Network SouthEast, London, Bournemouth and Weymouth main line. To be known as the Wessex Electrics, these new 5-car units feature air suspension, load-sensitive braking and full air conditioning.
Hello, my name is Martin Squibb. I'm an instructor with the Regional Operations Training Centre at Waterloo, and this is the new 442. This unit is fitted with a standard Buckeye fitment. The Buckeye can be dropped for purposes of loco hauling. Under the buffer on the opposite side we have an ETH jumper. This is normally only used when this unit is being hauled by a locomotive. Here we have the standard main reservoir and brake pipe fitment. This also is only normally used when this unit is hauled by a locomotive. Underneath this buffer we have the ETH receptacle. We have a receptacle where the Buckeye release handle is located for opening the Buckeye on the front of this unit. Along the side of the unit we have an air-operated valve that is used to enable the driver to enter the air-operated plug doors. Further along we have the shoe equipment. It's a height limit beam type shoe equipment similar to 1963, with the shoe equipment suspended and a feed to the shoe fuse. These units are fitted up with 8 shoes, 2 to the driving trailer and 2 to the trailer standard. Here we have a shoe fuse. This fuse is for the shoe equipment we've just looked at. This is one of 2 cabinets located on this coach. Inside the cabinet we will find a passenger communication isolating cock, a suspension reservoir isolating cock, a door reservoir isolating cock, and an air suspension isolating cock. Within the cabinet we have the cocks located as you can see. This cock is for the air suspension. This cock is to isolate the passenger communication equipment. This cock is to operate the doors. These 2 cocks are to isolate the air suspension on this coach. This is the second of 2 cabinets located down the driver's side of this coach containing EP isolation cock, brake supply reservoir isolation cock and triple valve isolation cock, also the brake cylinder release valve for this coach. Also within this cabinet we have the bogie brake isolation cock number 1, bogie brake isolation cock number 2 and the EP box. This coach, the driving trailer composite, is the coach we have been looking at. It has a converter for 110 volts for battery charging, train lighting and control purposes. This is the second coach, the trailer standard coach, and on this coach we have a compressor, main reservoir tank, governor air isolation cock and main reservoir air isolation cock. In this cabinet we have passenger communication isolating cock, suspension reservoir isolation cock, door reservoir isolation cock, also 2 bogie air isolation cocks for the suspension as on the driving trailer composite. In this cabinet we have EP isolation cock, brake supply isolation cock, triple valve isolation cock, brake release valve Also, bogie cylinder isolation cocks for bogies 1 and 2. Here we have the shoe fuse for the respective shoe equipment. This is the third coach, the Buffy Motor Luggage Standard Coach, or better known to drivers as the Motor Coach. Here we have 2 equipment links not touched by drivers. 4 line switches, reverser. Here we have the resistance contactor camshaft. We have 2 air isolation cocks for the air suspension for bogies 1 and 2. We have a resistance camshaft for the Wickfield contactors. Here we have a brake cylinder release valve, further contactors for traction motors, and for the second set of traction motors we have a reverser. At the end of the motor coach we have a waist-high shed socket. This is the trailer standard wheelchair coach. It is the 4th coach from the driving trailer. Here we have the shoe equipment on this bogie. This is the shoe fuse in relevance to the shoe equipment we've just seen on the last bogie. Here we have the brake cylinder release valve for this coach. This is the 5th coach, the driving trailer standard, and we have a shoe fuse here. We have the associated shoe equipment. This is the front of the unit, and as you can see, the covering has been lifted for access to the 27-way control jumper, main resin brake pipe with dual cocks. This side we have the 27-way control jumper receptacle. Here we have a main res and brake pipe also. These connections are used when coupling 442s to 442, also 442 to any other EMUT or certain types of locomotives. As we have finished with this end of the unit, we'll now walk down the opposite side. Within this cabinet we have isolation cocks for compressor governor isolating cock, main reservoir isolating cock. These are clearly marked on the front of the cabinet. In this cabinet we have passenger communicating isolating cock, suspension reservoir isolating cock, door reservoir isolating cock, and 2 air suspension isolation cocks for bogies 1 and 2, as can be seen clearly marked on the cabinet face. Here we have another cabinet with, as you can see, EP isolation cock, brake supply isolation cock, triple valve isolation cock, brake release valve, and brake cylinder isolating cocks for bogies 1 and 2, clearly marked on the front of the cabinets. These cabinets are all located down the driver's side of the driving trailer standard. This is the door emergency valve. Each coach has 2 of these valves fitted. By turning the cock to the open position, the door will open. We've been looking at the driving trailer standard. This coach has a compressor fitted to it. Under the cab, you will also find shoe equipment. This is the trailer standard wheelchair coach. It has a compressor fitted to it also. Behind this cabinet we have compressor governor isolating cock, main reservoir isolating cock. Behind this cabinet we have passenger communication isolating cock, suspension reservoir isolating cock, door reservoir isolating cock, and 2 air suspension ISO cocks for bogies 1 and 2. Behind this cabinet we have EP isolation cock, brake supply isolation cock, triple valve isolation cock, brake release valve, also brake cylinder isolation cocks for bogies 1 and 2. This coach is also fitted up with a shoe fuse and shoe equipment. This is the motor coach. Isolation cocks are identified on the lower half of the body side. This is the traction control isolation cock, better known as control air. Door isolation cock, EP brake isolation cock, brake cylinder release valve, EP box, triple valve isolating cock, passenger communications isolating cock, brake supply isolating cock, brake cylinder isolating cock for bogie number 2, suspension reservoir isolating cock. These units are also fitted up with conventional resistances. Here we have the brake cylinder isolation cock for bogie number 1. Here we have a shed socket with a shore supply attached. Above we have a 3-position switch, shore, off and normal. When preparing these units, this switch must be in the normal position. If found to be in any other position, a fitter must be called. These units have 4 traction motors, 2 on this bogie and 2 on the rear bogie. Each traction motor is 400 horsepower. Here we have a shed socket. This coach is the trailer standard. This coach is fitted with shoe equipment, also shoe fuse. Here we have the brake cylinder release valve for this coach. All other external cocks are located on the opposite side as previously seen. We have now arrived at the driving trailer composite coach. When drivers prepare these units, they must ensure that the cabinets are secure. Here we have the shoe fuse, shoe equipment. We will now look inside this unit.
This is the cab of the driving trailer composite, which we have called coach number 1. The unit is fitted with a standard 3-position brake valve. In front of the brake handle is a 2-position switch, EP or auto. To the right of the brake handle we have the driver's signal bell. The windscreen wiper control and windscreen washer button, and the 4-tone warning horn control. Above we have the brake cylinder gauge, calibrated into bars. The duplex gauge, train pipe pressure to the right and main res pressure to the left. To the left of these gauges is a row of switches as follows: cab lights, vestibule gangway lights, tail light, emergency rate series normal switch, demister and destination indicator. Above the air gauges we have instrument lamp switch and dimmer switch. To the right of the switch, the vestibule and cab plug door lock-unlock switch. This switch enables the driver, once the master switch has been moved from the off position, to unlock the connecting vestibule door and side plug doors. The end of unit button, which must be depressed after coupling to another type of unit or locomotive with a 27-way control jumper. In that cab, the master switch must be away from the off position. Overload reset button. This will reset traction motor overloads on this and any other unit or locomotive coupled. Wheel slide protection device override button. Depressing this button permits the driver to cut out the wheel slide protection blowdown valves for emergency braking. Once operated, you will not be able to recharge the brake pipe for a period of 2 minutes. The master controller has 4 positions corresponding to shunt, series, parallel and weak field. The controller handle is not fitted with a DSD. Instead, a treadle operated DSD is provided below the driver's desk. Behind the master controller on the right is a line indicator, a white light, and to the left the EP brake indicator. Headlight and marker light switch. Off position red indication. Position 1 right hand headlight, left hand marker light, yellow indication. Position 2 marker lights only, red indication. Used only for shunting at depots or sidings. Position 3 left headlight, right hand marker, yellow indication, off, red indication. At the centre of the control panel is the speedometer calibrated from 0 to 120 mph an hour. These units are restricted to a maximum speed of 100 mph an hour. To commission this cab, the standard EP key is inserted into the barrel of the master switch, which, once unlocked, can be moved to the neutral position. For approximately 7 seconds after the AWS has been cancelled, the train pipe will vent. On the cab partition to the right of the driver's position will be found a keyboard and instructions for the dot matrix destination display on the nose end. At the right of the windscreen is the cab to guard and public address handset. To call the guard, simply lift the handset, depress the call button and press the small white button on the handset to speak. This facility is only operative within units of this class. Just above floor level at the driver's left is a cab plug door air emergency valve, also duplicated on the off side of the cab. Above the driver's side window is a door close button and door interlock light. This equipment is used by drivers of DOO empty coaching stock workings to close all external passenger plug doors. When all doors are closed, the blue interlock light will be illuminated. This equipment is also located above the offside cab window. Cab heat switch 1. Opposite side to driver, fan assisted. Cab heat 2. Under driver's seat. Saloon lights set. Saloon lights trip. Auxiliary supply set. Auxiliary supply trip. Let's look at MCBs situated above the driver's seat. AWS supply. Control positive. Brake control. Cab heat supply. Demister supply. Aux lighting 1, 2, 3 and 4. These are for cab purposes. Control earth. power supply, door lock light, ETH on light. At the offside of the cab, below the offside windscreen, is a small cabinet containing AWS and DSD isolation cocks. To open the cabinet, it is necessary to unlock the indicator flap with the EP key and pull this flap up. Only then will it be possible to open the cabinet with a carriage key. Within the cabinet, AWS isolation cock and DSD isolation cock. To isolate the DSD, the isolating cock must be moved thus. To isolate the AWS, the isolating cock must be moved thus. Once either of these cocks have been operated, it will not be possible to close the cabinet door. At the extreme left of this cabinet is the vigilance device isolating switch and the traction interlock isolating switch. Once the flap indicator has been raised to open this cabinet, it cannot be lowered again except by a fitter. The flap indicator is visible from the front of the train. At the bottom of the large lower cabinet on the off side of the cab can be found, to the left, the parking brake emergency release cock, and to the right, the parking brake emergency application cock. These cocks should normally be found in the position shown. Class 442 units are equipped with disc and caliper air brakes. In addition, the driving trailers are fitted with spring-applied parking brakes. Main reservoir air pressure is required to release these parking brakes. In the gangway behind the cab is the emergency equipment cupboard. Contained within this cupboard are a short circuiting bar, hook switch pole, paddles and a shoe fuse box spanner. Adjacent to each cab plug door, a guard's door control panel. The BR1 key switch position is below the driver's side panel. The offside panel has no key switch position. On the opposite side of the cab gangway, adjacent to each cab plug door, are passenger door controls and passenger emergency door valves. Beside the cab end vestibule door in the passenger saloon is an emergency door valve, and above the vestibule door is a door lock indicator, illuminated when the cab is occupied and the driver's vestibule switch is in the locked position. In the passenger saloon is an example of the alarm handle and window hammer fitted to this type of unit. When pulled by a passenger, the alarm handle vents the train pipe air. It must be reset with a carriage key. At the opposite end of the driving trailer composite, in the vestibule adjacent to the toilet, is environmental cupboard number 1 containing door control 1 MCB, door control 2 MCB, saloon lights 1 MCB, saloon lights 2 MCB, reading lights 1, 2 and 3 MCBs, saloon emergency lights MCB, saloon heating MCB, payphone MCB, extractor fans 1 and 2 MCB, and air conditioning isolation switch. WSP MCB, air conditioning healthy light, green. Battery positive MCB, auxiliary supply MCB, main lights MCB, emergency lights MCB, heating control MCB, control supply MCB, PA MCB, and auxiliaries miscellaneous MCB. Beside the toilet in this vestibule, is a public radio telephone cubicle. In the trailer standard environmental cupboard number 2, air conditioning isolation switch, extractor fans 1 and 2 MCB, power supply MCB, saloon heating MCB, compressor synchronization MCB, compressor control MCB, saloon emergency lights MCB, saloon lights 2 MCB, saloon lights 1 MCB, door control 2 MCB, door control 1 MCB, WSP MCB, air conditioning healthy light green. This environmental cupboard is back to back with the environmental cupboard number 1 on the driving trailer composite. At the Buffy end of the motor Buffy luggage standard, opposite the staff door, is environmental cupboard number 3. Door control 1 MCB, door control 2 MCB, saloon lights 1 and 2 MCB, saloon emergency lights MCB, saloon heating MCB, extractor fans 1 and 2 MCB, air conditioning isolation switch, WSP MCB, air conditioning healthy light green. In the centre of this coach, the guard's office. Auxiliary supply set button, auxiliary supply trip button, saloon lights set button and saloon lights trip button, traction control run back MCB, guards heaters MCB, ET8 supply not energised MCB, load shed MCB, auxiliary lights 2 MCB, auxiliary lights 1 MCB. Located above the MCBs is the motor cutout switch. Position 1, normal. With the EP key inserted and turned anti-clockwise, the motor cutout switch moved to position 2, motors 1 and 2 isolated. Motor cutout switch moved to position 3, motors 3 and 4 isolated. Motor cutout switch moved to position 4, all motors out. Motor cutout switch moved back to position 1, normal. Adjacent to the guard's office external door is one of 2 guard's office light switches. Door interlock switch fitted to all slam doors on this coach. And luggage door interlock cutout switch. Located above the guard's desk, duplex gauge, brake pipe pressure, main reservoir pressure, brake cylinder gauge, guard's test cock, and to the left the PA handset. Above the gauges, the guard's heater switch. Adjacent to the guard's office external door is a door control panel with key switch position. In the corridor adjacent to the guard's office, a door control panel located in a cupboard. Also in the corridor, the emergency equipment cupboard. At the inner end of the trailer standard wheelchair coach is a disabled toilet equipped with alarm buttons. In the vestibule cupboard directly opposite the toilet is a compressor cutout switch and disabled toilet MCB. At the opposite end of this coach, adjacent to the toilet, is environment cupboard number 4. Door control number 1 MCB, door control number 2 MCB, saloon lights 1 and 2 MCBs, saloon emergency lights MCB, compressor control MCB, compressor synchronization MCB, saloon heating MCB, power supply MCB, extractor fans 1 and 2 MCB, air conditioning isolation switch, WSP MCB, air conditioning healthy light green. Back to back with the environmental cupboard number 4 on the trailer standard wheelchair coach is the environmental cupboard number 5 on the driving trailer standard. Door control 1 MCB, door control 2 MCB, saloon lights 1 and 2 MCBs, saloon emergency lights MCB, compressor control MCB, compressor synchronization MCB, saloon heating MCB, extractor fans 1 and 2 MCB, air conditioning isolation switch, WSP MCB, air conditioning healthy light green. Making our way through the coach to the cab of the driving trailer standard, we find that the layout is identical to that of the driving trailer composite, except that there is one less MCB. Control earth MCB, auxiliary lighting 4, 3, 2 and 1 MCBs, demister supply MCB, cab heating MCB, brake control MCB, control positive MCB, AWS supply MCB, door lock light, ETH on light. Additionally, in this cab, the compressor cutout switch. On every coach, there is an AC distribution cupboard containing the following MCBs: extractor fan 1, extractor fan 2, cleaner's socket, cab vent fan only found on driving trailer coaches, hand dryer, WC water heater, shaver socket, air damper. Also, air conditioning module supply. Located above every passenger plug door, there is a door emergency valve. When the large red button is depressed, an emergency brake application will take place. When the speed of the train drops below 3 miles an hour, the plug door will open. To close the door and to enable the drive to recharge the brake pipe, it is necessary to reset the door emergency valve. Finally, to summarise the main equipment of each coach. The driving trailer composite is fitted with shoe equipment under the cab and an underslung converter for the supply of 110 volts for battery charging, control and lighting. Also 415 volts AC for air conditioning. The trailer standard has shoe equipment fitted and is equipped with a compressor and main reservoir tank. Also an inverter producing 415 volts AC for air conditioning. The motor Buffy luggage standard is equipped with 4 traction motors with a total output of 1,600 horsepower. Also associated traction control and has a shed supply socket at each end of the coach. The trailer standard wheelchair has shoe equipment and is fitted with a compressor, main reservoir tank and an inverter producing 415 volts AC for air conditioning. The driving trailer standard is fitted with shoe equipment under the cab and is equipped with a compressor and main reservoir tank. These 1,600 horsepower units will therefore begin a new era of high-speed rail travel on the Waterloo to Weymouth main line,